Good evening, everyone. I'd like to start the meeting. Please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Welcome, everyone. Township of Old Bridge Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting, August 3rd, 2023. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Old Bridge Township Zoning Board of Adjustment has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, at least 48 hours prior to the commencement of this meeting, by primarily posting in the municipal complex an announcement giving the time, the date, the location, and the agenda of this meeting, also by mailing such announcement to the Home News and Tribune, also by filing a copy of such announcement with the municipal clerk, and also posting the agenda on the municipal website. Ms. Percelli, could we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Sullivan?
Here.
Mr. Connor?
Here.
Mr. Stoner?
Here.
Ms. Chevalier?
Here.
Mr. Scogno?
Here.
Ms. Andrews?
Here.
Ms. Testaverde? Here. Mr. Izzo?
Here. Thank you. I apologize to those at home. We normally are prompt and start at 7:30. We just had a couple housekeeping issues to take care of here before we went live on the air.
I'm
You have a
sorry,
short-
Chairman. I just want to make it for record that Mr. Klansky and I'm present as well.
Oh, yes, that's right. Board Attorney Brian Clancy is present.
Veena Savan, Township Planner, present.
Thank you.
Very good. Oh, as I said, so we ran a little late, but now we're ready to go. We do have some housekeeping issues we'll take care of on the record. First, if you had an agenda and you were looking at it prior to this meeting, it's going to be shortened by 2 applications. 2 of the applications are going to be continued. So there's only going to be 1 application this evening, and I'll read that into the record as we get to the applications. Having said that, the first matter of business is resolutions. I'm going to call them in order. 05-2023Z, Thomas Beek, C variance. Mr. Clancy.
Yes, I know all the board members have already received a copy of this via email, so we're just going to do an executive summary on this. This is for 149 Orchard Avenue in Lawrence Harbor. It's Block 14, Lot 148. We heard this application on July 20th, 2023, and this was an application for installation of an asphalt driveway on a home. It was an improvement there. The variance was needed because there was an encroachment on the side setback there. The board will remember we had four board members on this day for the C variance application, and it was approved. The applicants will have the usual conditions that we impose upon them. However, there's also the additional requirements that the applicant will install Belgian block barrier along the property line at the edge of the asphalt, that they'll ensure that the driveway is pitched away from the neighboring street, and the applicant will complete the project within a 1-year date of this approval. Mr. Chairman, for approval tonight.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Clancy. Board members, we only have 4 of us there. They're all here this evening, I believe. So, someone please move the resolution for adoption.
I'll move it for adoption. Stoner?
Is there a second?
Andrews.
Andrew seconds. Roll call, please.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Ms. Andrews?
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde?
Yes.
Mr. Izzo?
Yes. Thank you, board members. The second one is 30-2023Z, Ronald Nathanson. It was also a C variance. Mr. Clancy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was also, advanced copy was provided to the board members on this. This was, you'll remember from last meeting, this was 16 Higgins Road in Old Bridge, Block 13003.13, Lot 29. The applicant, Ronald Nathanson, was before the board on July 20th to seek a variance for side setback. This was a second-floor deck that was existing. It was kind of falling apart. He was looking to replace it, and the replacement encroached a bit on the side setbacks. There was a uniquely shaped lot, which led to a C variance request, which the board subsequently approved. And there's just the usual conditions here. There's nothing exotic with this application. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clancy. Board members, someone move that for adoption, please.
I'll move it for adoption. Stoner?
Is there a second?
Izzo?
Mr. Izzo seconds. Roll call, please.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Ms. Andrews?
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde?
Yes.
Mr. Izzo?
Yes.
Thank you, board members. Finally, it's 31-2023Z, Joseph Abu, C variance. Mr. Clancy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, again, from the same meeting, July 20th of 2023. This was 300 Morgan Avenue here in Old Bridge, Block 26042, Lot 22. The applicant was before the board on this because they were putting an addition on the front of their house. The addition included like a portico, if the board remembers, and that encroached on the front setback for the house by about 3 feet. We did hear testimony from a professional on this one as well, and the board did conduct a vote that night. It was subsequently approved, and there are four of the usual conditions that are in here, no additional odd type of conditions for approval. So, Mr. Chairman, it is on for a vote tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Clancy. Board members, someone move for adoption, please.
I'll move for adoption.
Is there a
Stoner.
second?
Andrews.
Mr. Stoner and Ms. Andrews, roll call, please.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
Yes.
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Ms. Andrews?
Yes.
Ms. Testaverde?
Yes.
Mr. Izzo?
Yes.
All right, item 4 on the agenda this evening is the annual report, the 2022 annual report. That was just received today. If you haven't checked your mail, it did come in. I haven't had really a chance to review this, and I'm probably certain that most have not. I think what we should probably do, Ms. Sawant, is to put this on for our next regular meeting here in the courtroom.
Sure.
So that would be what, Ms. Porcelli, is it, do you have the dates? I do somewhere.
August 17th?
No.
No.
No, it would be
Next
September, the
I'm
first one in September,
I don't have the date.
That would be September 7th.
September 7th. That sounds right. Okay, September 7th, we'll discuss the annual report. Okay, board members, please take have a review of that before we come back for that meeting, so we can have a discussion on the matter. That brings us to a completeness waiver. We have one. It's 44-2023Z, MCB Landscaping LLC. This is in the R20 low-medium density residential. Location is block 11257, lot 4. The physical location is 4244 Highway 516. It's for landscaping business seeking a D variance. With reference to the matter, Ms. Sawant has received a request for waivers, and I will read her memorandum into the record dated July 26, 2023. The subject is MCB Landscaping with the application number, block number, and requiring D variance. She opines the following. The subject property, also known as Block 11257, Lot 4, is located at 4244 Highway 516 in the low-medium density residential zone. The property contains a single-family home, garage, accessory shed, and an asphalt driveway in the front portion, an outdoor storage area, gravel driveway and parking areas, and accessory sheds in the rear portion. The applicant is seeking a D1 use variance relative relief to continue operation of a landscaping business on the property. Our office has reviewed the waiver request by the applicant for the following items, and it looks like there's 5 of them. Item 3A, environmental impact statement. Item 3B, community impact statement. Item 3C, traffic impact. Item 3D, aquifer recharge assessment. And finally, item 3E, stormwater report. She continues, the applicant has filed a bifurcated use variance application. The application appears to be born of a violation notice issued by the Township Zoning Office dated February 14, 2023, which cited failure to secure site plan approval and zoning permit in connection with the landscaping business. Since the applicant received the violation notice, they have submitted a bifurcated use variance application and conceptual site plan to permit the continued operation of their landscaping business and make overall site improvements. The applicant proposes to continue operation of their landscaping business and remove most of the outdoor storage from the rear of the property. They propose to construct a 40 by 60 pole barn, 3 10 by 12 storage bins, a rear yard gravel area, as well as landscaping and fencing for screening. Dwelling and other business services, including lawn and yard maintenance, is not permitted in the R20 zone. Therefore, a D1 use variance is required. At this time, the applicant seeks D1 use variance relief for continued landscaping service. Should the board act favorably on the use variance, the applicant would subsequently file a major preliminary and final site plan submission for the board's consideration of the proposed site improvements. Our office recommends that all the items listed above be waived for the purpose of reviewing the use variance, except for the items 3B and 3C. It appears that in the past few years, trees have been cleared from the site. A review by the township forester will be required for use variance. The applicant should submit a community impact statement to address the impacts, if any, of proposed application. The applicant should also submit a traffic impact statement to address the impacts, if any, on traffic in the area. Should the board act favorably on the use variance application, the applicant would be required to provide any and all above items as applicable at the time of site plan submission. The applicant should be advised that the waiving of any completeness items does not constitute approval of any portion of the application, and that any information found to be necessary during the review process must be supplied. Ms. Sawant.
Actually, I don't have anything further to add, but the only thing I wanted to explain to people watching the meeting on TV is that this is a bifurcated application. What that means is the applicant has to come in front of the zoning board twice. First time is for the use variance. Should the board act favorably on the use variance, then they come back, they return to the board with a site plan application. Some of the checklist items that are waived for the use variance application will be required as part of the site plan, or may be required as part of site plan. To give you an example, stormwater management report will be required should the applicant get an approval of the use variance and has to come back for a site plan application. So just these waivers are not really waivers from the actual site plan. They are waivers of the checklist item for the use variance. And I understand while reviewing the application that there has been a lot of clearing of trees. So as part of the use variance application, I am requiring that the township forester review the application and give us a feedback on how many trees have been removed and how it impacts the neighborhood.
Thank you, Ms. Sawant. And once again, for the board's edification, and for those at home, this is a vote on these waivers alone, not any vote on any variance of any sort.
That is correct. This is not a vote on any use variance application. This is purely on the waivers from the checklist item.
Okay. Mr. Clancy, obviously, this is going to be a bifurcated application when it comes before us. So there'll be two, as Ms. Sawant has indicated, if it continues on as a bifurcated application, correct? Two meetings?
Yeah, they'll have, the first hurdle will be the use variance, and then if it proceeds in a bifurcated fashion, they'd come back, just as Ms. Sawant very succinctly put, to do the major site plan, things of those nature. So it looks like the proposal from before the board is to exclude, or to grant waivers for 3A, 3D, and 3E, which are environmental impact statement, aquifer recharge assessment, and stormwater report. Ms. Sawant's recommending that we still keep the community impact statement in and the traffic impact report in. So that's where it kind of sits at the moment.
So
Mr.
it's
Chairman.
those two, 3B and 3C, correct, Ms. Sawant? All right, board members, questions on this matter, on this waiver? None? Okay. There's no schedule for this as of yet.
No, because I think the applicant would need time to prepare a traffic impact as well as community impact, so there's no schedule.
Thank you, Mr. Sawant. Board members, we'd be voting simply on waiving waiving the items listed, not 3B and 3C. Anyone in favor of moving the waiver?
I'm in favor to move it, Stoner.
Mr. Stoner, is there a second to Mr. Stoner?
Connor.
Seconds, roll call, please, for the waivers.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier? No. Mr. Scogno?
No.
Ms. Andrews?
No.
Ms. Testaverde?
No.
Mr. Izzo?
No.
5-0. Okay. The waivers are not granted. Now we'll move on to our applications. And simply, that would mean that,
Actually, Jim, then I have a question for Mr. Klansky. Sure. We are voting no, which means the board has voted no, which means out of these 5, the ones that I had recommended be waived or the applicant has to submit, right? The issue here is the reason I recommended that the environmental impact be waived is because we do not see any constraints on the property. We typically ask for an EIS when there are constraints on the property. We ask for aquifer recharge when it is within the recharge area. They are not. So what does the applicant really have to provide?
Well, they're gonna have to provide exactly what's on here. They're gonna have to provide some sort of environmental impact statement, the aquifer recharge assessment to the degree that they can, and the stormwater report to the degree that it would be required of any application.
So it would be similar to a site plan application then?
That sounds right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, we'll continue on our applications this evening, and as I mentioned earlier, there is only one. And I'm going to read the other 2 into the record that are going to be continued then, and I'll call up the only application we're going to hear this evening. The first was listed as 50-2021Z, OBNJ LLC. That's Block 1069, Lot 1, physical location 69 Highway 35. That's requiring major preliminary and final site plan with C and D variance. That matter is going to be continued September 7th, no further notice. If you're interested in that matter, you're watching at home, was that your only reason, you can turn the TV off. It's not going to be heard this evening. I really don't want you to turn the TV off. I'd like you to stay and watch the rest of the meeting, but it will not be heard this evening. The other one that will not be heard this evening is 60-2022Z, Abilio and Elizabeth Teixeira. That's R120 Block 24204, Lot 26. The physical location is 2075 Englishtown Road. That's for a storage building requiring D variance. That matter is also going to be continued. Right now, it's on the agenda it's going to be put on the agenda for October 5th, no further notice. So if you have interest in that matter, it may very well be put on October 5th or may not, but at this point, we're just going to set that date. Correct, Ms. Sawant? Okay. So that leaves us only with the one application we have this evening, and that's 31-2022Z. This is EOM 538R34 LLC. This is low-density residential R30 Block 11252.14, Lot 21.11. The physical location here is 538 Route 34. The applicant was previously approved for a minor subdivision to create 2 separate lots. The applicant proposes a change to the prior use variance relief, so it would require D variance. Peter Clauser is representing the applicant, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. There we go. Sorry about that. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, public, your professional staff. This is an application that was presented on June 1st before this board. The applicant completed their presentation. The matter was open to the public and closed. What we were asking for is a clarification from the original resolution that was approved with regard to the uses that are permitted. And after working with your staff, we came up with the idea to ask that the EDO1 uses be permitted on the site, subject to the submission to your professionals of a shared parking analysis to make sure that we had a proper mix of uses. We also included a request for recreational uses, and that created an issue. Raised concerns from members of the public that there may be noise associated with that it may draw additional traffic that wasn't originally contemplated by the application. So we ended the meeting, I believe it was late in the evening. We ended the meeting with the thought of, let's all think about that and come back and decide what we want to do. So the applicant's removing the request to have any kind of recreational use. We're not asking that it be prohibited, but if there's some other tenant that's a recreational use under your ordinance, they'd have to come in front of the board and ask for use variance. And then they could describe their activity to the board. The board can make an analysis to determine its impact on the surrounding area and whether or not it's appropriate. So we just simply revert to, can we have the EDO1 uses be permitted so that your zoning officer and your professional staff know the list of uses that are allowed. Ms. Sawant asked me to identify on the record in her report on page 7, there's a list of 6 uses. Or, excuse me, on her report, let me give it the date. Her report of June 1st, 2023, on page 3, there's a list of 6 uses which we agree are not appropriate for the site. Public and private parking areas, mini warehouses and self-storage, mini warehouses for trades, gasoline stations and mini marts, retail convenience, fueling stations, and automobile repair and maintenance. So those are uses that are listed as in the ED01, but we're not asking that they be included. We're just, the rest of the ED01 uses are what the applicant is asking for. As I said, the application was complete. We just had to decide what we're doing with recreation. We're removing it, so we'd ask if the board would act favorably on the application.
Ms. Sawant?
I don't have any comments except one. Peter, I know we had discussed at length about the 30% reservation on restaurant type of a use. And should the board act favorably on the application, I would recommend that that be a condition of approval. I know we also discussed 50%, including the recreation use, but since you have withdrawn that type of a use, that no longer is a concern. So I believe that 30% limitation on restaurant use should still continue, should the board act favorably.
Yeah, I think that's in Mr. Dosty's notes, and we agree that that's a condition.
That will apply to the traffic consultant's scenario of certain time and usage as well? correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And board members remember what we talked about there? So it's kind of like, it's not called shared, what's it called?
No, shared parking
Shared
analysis.
Shared parking, okay.
Yeah, and then the shared parking analysis is just, no matter what analysis we could come up with, we couldn't have more than 30% of restaurant. And I think you might recall Jim Higgins testified, there could be an instance where, based on your uses, you may only be able to have 20% of restaurant.
Mr. Clauser, we threw the words around recreation, and I believe we also talked about entertainment.
No, let's not talk about that anymore. I used the wrong word.
Right, and-
It's supposed to be
and-
the reason for
Well, I see
recreation.
we have people here in the audience, and they
The
may
reason
ask
why we
that
use the
question.
word recreation, and I improperly use the word entertainment, is because you have a definition in your ordinance of recreation. So Vina corrected me the last hearing, and that's, but it's no longer, it's moot, because we're not including it.
And those listed on here, on Ms. Sawant's report on page 3, that you enumerated and put on the record, if any of those were to ever happen, they would have to come back before the board before it could happen.
That's correct.
Okay, they're not prohibited, but you're not asking.
We're not asking for them, yeah.
Trying to think what else they're going to ask. Board members, you have any questions for,
The 50% that's not going to be used,
We don't need it anymore because it would have been, we were trying to figure out a way to limit the amount of recreation, but we don't need to do that anymore because we're not asking
It's
for it at
gone.
all. It's 0%.
so you're not going to upper another,
No.
not there?
thank you.
Anybody on my left? Questions? And on my right, Ms. Andrews, go ahead.
Yes, this is one time before that you did come and you asked for a use variance, and it was something with regards to putting medical or physical therapy. Has that been looked into at all?
That remains as a permitted
That
use
still
on the
remains.
site,
Okay, so that's still going to be there.
and it would have to be part of a
Okay,
shared
so
parking
this is
analysis.
Something completely different. So that's still in the running?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else on the board before I go to the public? Ms. Sawant?
I just want to answer Mr. Andrews' question. Maybe I can explain it better. So suppose there is 70,000 square feet of commercial, right? They came in first for medical use, which was approved by the board. Now, when they're saying that any use within the EDO1 zone, except for those 6 uses, medical use is a permitted use in the EDO1. So you're not really contradicting what was approved. That use is inclusive of the other uses in the EDO1 zone. No problem.
I'm going to go to public portion, okay?
Okay.
This is matter 31-2022Z, location 538 Route 34. I'm going to open a public portion now. If anybody wants to be heard, I'd ask them to please raise their hand and come up. Ms. Vaughn has previously been sworn under the last one. Do you want to swear her again?
It's a new meeting, we should.
Okay. Board Attorney will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that any testimony you provide before this board will be the truth and the whole truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can lower your hand. Can you just state your name for the record, please?
Teal Vaughn,
How do you spell your first name?
Teal.
Thank you.
And you're a resident of Sheila Court, correct?
Yes, yes.
Go ahead.
So I'm glad that we're not doing the recreation. I just want to ask if there's any way to permanently not have somebody come up and ask for recreation, because I'm sick of policing this. Like, all my neighbors, we're in very close proximity, and it's really not the place for it. And that was our agreement with Bill Bolton when I advocated with him. He had promised us he wasn't going to put anything back there that was going to cause any kind of upheaval to our lives. And everything I look at online that's recreation is noisy, is late hours, and we're having issues already with people walking on the berm. I don't know where they're coming from, and I don't know how to stop that, but the berm is above my fence, and it's already a problem. So it's unfair that we have to constantly hawk the board, that somebody's gonna come and ask to put something there that doesn't belong there. So I don't even know if there's a way to permanently say there's certain things that can't be there, like, I don't know.
Let me ask the attorney to probably put it in better legal words than I might.
Okay.
We can't strictly prohibit something that someone could come and ask for. What we could do is deny it, however,
Right.
if the board, each person gets a vote. So it could be denied, but we can't prohibit, if I'm correct, someone from coming before the board and
So
seeking
we just
something.
always have to be on our toes to see what's coming before the board and all come here.
Well, in good faith, I think that I believe that's the owner immediately to
No,
your
and
right.
I don't mean
And-
Mr.
and
Freeman,
Mr.
but if
Clauser
he
has put
sells
on-
the property to somebody else, we're back to square one again.
Yeah, but so keep in mind that there's pretty strict noticing requirements with this, so these things are never a secret, you know.
Right, no, I know that.
Yeah,
But just like I have neighbors that are away now, 3 of our neighbors are away that couldn't make it.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a constant thing with this property with us, and I feel like now it's developed, and we're still worried. It seems to never end. That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's no,
Okay.
way to permanently bar anybody from coming before the board. It's a public board, it's part of the public government, it's like anybody coming before.
No, I understand. I
right.
thought maybe if there was a way to say it's not in the EDO 1 list, so it really doesn't belong there, and we're not going to approve something like that.
That's actually what the exact function of this board is.
Okay.
We're the exceptions board. So
Okay,
anytime somebody wants an exception, they head here, so.
Okay.
And that's why we have that notice requirement. We do it in a public forum. We don't go into a back room and discuss this kind of stuff because it's exactly the type of
Okay.
input that they welcome to make their decisions, so.
All right, I
But I
understand.
appreciate your vigilance and diligence.
okay.
I thank you. I did visit your property again, and
Okay.
I understand your feelings and your complaints of what's going on. I'm hoping that most of the brush, this is totally aside from what they're seeking here, but I think when those trees mature, I think you're going to get a better coverage.
No, and I want
And-
Noah to
and I-
succeed. It's not
I
that
don't know why people
I
would
live
be-
behind it.
I don't know why people would be walking up there, other than I guess they just moved in. They may
Yeah.
be just kind of, there's really
I
no
don't
reason to
know where
walk
they're
up
coming
there.
from.
but-
I don't know if it's people that live there, but we're seeing them on top, and it's above my fence.
I was there the other day, and I was there again today, and I saw people walking around in and out of the homes, or the
Right,
apartments,
right.
but I didn't see anybody back there, so.
Right.
Probably curiosity when you just move in, to say, well, what's the lay of the land here? There's no way for people to go from the neighbor's property out onto Sheila or out. you have
No,
to go
I
out
know
on
that, but
34.
when you're sitting in a yard and they're above
I
you,
agree.
I don't know if there could be a no trespassing sign put on that berm, or,
That's probably outside the
something-
jurisdiction of this
right,
board.
I get it.
And what we're
Okay.
handling. But we understand your concerns.
okay.
All right?
All right.
Thank you for being here
Thank
tonight.
you.
All right, Ms. Vaughn. Ma'am, did you want to speak? Come on up. Same thing, the board attorney is going to swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that any testimony you provide before this board will be the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Okay, you can lower your arm. Can you state your name for the record, please?
Melissa Takis Wong.
Can you spell it?
MELISA TAKACS WOUNG.
Go right ahead. I know you testified at the last meeting before the board.
I did. I do support everything Teal's saying. As mentioned, we do have several of our neighbors traveling. Tom is directly behind it on 8 Sheila Court. I'm number 6. We had a question we were trying to figure out, and we're hoping that someone here today would be able to answer that, is that, when you see these projects on paper, they're laid out on paper, right? When they come to life, now they're in 3D. You get to see them, you get to hear it. There's only several tenants moved in, and he's freaking out because of the fact that all he hears is the humming of ACs. He no longer hears the birds anymore. I do hear it too. The question I have is, I don't know, did they do a noise study with that before they did this? And what's it going to be like when the, Mr. Friedman, maybe they can answer, the commercial spaces are rented? Is it going to be noisy like that as well, or?
I would say you could direct that probably to the building department or the zoning department on questions like that. I think that's not really something that the board is well aware of. I mean, it's.
Yeah, so when we're voting on the zoning and things like that, just for the future to keep in mind for this board that, paper is paper, but seeing and hearing, touching, feeling it is a completely different experience. So this is something that we had no clue about, and we can bring it in front of the right people as well, but we're just kind of curious what's going to come when the units are occupied on the commercial side.
I understand your concerns. I live further up Route 34. When I first moved in there, I couldn't sleep. And not that it's any consolation, but that goes away real quick because you get tired, and I find it rather restful. So I don't even hear the noise on 34 anymore. Again, that's not solving your problem, but I'm saying sometimes we just need to let things settle a little bit, let the people move in there. I'm sure that people aren't going to be walking up there. First, it's very rocky and dangerous. I found it anyway to be so. So I don't
Yeah,
know why
it
people
looks
would do
steep.
it, other than curiosity seekers, but I don't think they're there to spy on
Okay.
people. But maybe we
That's
can
it,
see
just
how
to
this
take,
progresses.
just to take into consideration any
Yes.
noise for future zoning changes.
It's understandable. So
Thank you.
I hope we've addressed your concerns, at least as far as the recreation.
Yes. Thank you.
Chairman, if you don't mind, can I just respond? The township has performance standards, which includes the noise ordinance too. So at some point, if you think that they are in violation, you can always call the code enforcement office and have them take a look at it.
Okay, I'll let him know. He wanted to bring that in front of you guys today. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for being here tonight. Anyone else wish to be heard on this matter? Okay, I'm going to close the public portion on this matter. Where are we at? We just need to vote on your usage of,
EDO 1.
correct, one vote for, it's a use? It's a one, right? Okay. So it's D1 for the use, for being able to use EDO standards, correct?
Yes. Yeah, the EDO 1 standard
With the exceptions of the ones that you've said no to at this point.
Yeah, I think it gives your professionals something they can work off of, when we're applying for zoning permits.
Okay with that, Mr. Clancy?
Yeah, so it's the EDO standards with the 6 enumerated exemptions, which Mr. Clauser already went over for the board.
No recreation, right?
And no
Withdrawal
recreation.
of the recreational use. And also, there was the recommendation from the planner at the 30%. Read the exact language out.
I think restaurants shall not comprise any more than 30% of the square footage of the commercial space.
It's restaurants specifically, right?
Yeah.
So that restaurants will not comprise any more than 30% of the available space.
You forgotten anything else?
No, that's it.
Can I just ask one question? I'm
Yeah, I just want to put that up so people understand, then we'll go and we'll see if anybody has any questions. Mr. Clancy was just doing some notes. Okay. Now, board members,
Yes,
any
I have a
questions? I'll start.
It's on.
Ms. Chevalier.
Yeah, Mr. Clauser, so you're guaranteeing you're not going to put apartments above the commercial area?
There's no proposal for apartments above the commercial
Okay, I
area.
just wanted on the record that later on, it's not going to come down the road where we're seeing apartments going up on top.
I think that goes to what was said earlier. We can't
Right,
prohibit a future owner from making an
And that's
application
fine,
for
but
something,
with
would have
this
to come.
application, I wanted to make sure.
No, just the
Because I
uses
wasn't in
is all
favor
we're
of it really
requesting.
the first time.
Yes, just the uses is all we're asking for.
Anybody else on my left? No? Mr. Stoner, anything? Vice Chairman? Good on this side? Okay. In that case, it would be a D1 use variance, as Mr. Clancy has enumerated the items. Someone wish to move it in favor or opposed? All right, I'll move it for the approval.
Connor, I'll second.
Moved in second. Roll call, please.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
I'm going to say yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
No,
Mr. Scogno?
No.
Ms. Andrews?
No,
Ms. Testaverde?
No.
Mr. Izzo?
No.
Actually, you're only supposed to have 7 votes, by the way.
Yeah.
Only 7. So it would be 4-3 denial.
Yeah, but we had an alternate there at the end. Is that what that was?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, yeah, it's 4.
It would be 4-3 in denying,
Okay,
all right?
thank you. Have a good night.
Good night. All right, board members, that is all we're going to have tonight, other than general public comments. Sir, would you like to be heard before the board? This would be a time. Okay, maybe he does not. Sir, did you want to speak before the board? Do you have any questions for the board? Yes, sir, you're the only one left. Oh, okay, I just wanted to make sure I gave you an opportunity. All right, I'll close the general public comments. Anything further from the township?
No,
Not at this time.
not at this time.
Mr. Clancy, on the legal front?
No, we'll have a resolution on this for our next meeting, I expect.
Okay. And any board members on this side, comments? Go ahead.
What does it mean when it says expiration date next to the things? If we
It's
go,
the time limit, unless it's continued.
unless it's,
Out on the,
the two that are not going to be tonight.
unless continued.
So that,
Yeah, if the board doesn't take some sort of action or they don't agree to a continuance.
that's when it runs out.
Becomes like an automatic approval, basically. So that's just a notice to the board to keep an eye on these things. And,
All right.
yeah, sometimes, you see boards, sometimes occasionally something slips through and it just it's considered they call it an administrative approval. It automatically gets approved, which can result in some crazy consequences.
That's what it's for, yep.
Yeah.
Anybody else over here? Someone want to move for adjournment? Anybody, second? Roll call, please.
Chairman Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Stoner?
Yes.
Ms. Chevalier?
yes.
Mr. Scogno?
Yes.
Ms. Andrews?
yes.
Ms. Testaverde?
Yes.
Mr. Izzo?
Yes.
We stand adjourned. We'll meet again on August 17th, I think, on Zoom, correct? Yes. Enjoy the rest of the month. See you on Zoom, everyone. Good night to those watching at home.
All right.